Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. Hey, all you minties! Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for your look at these collected editions coming out from Marvel Comics this week. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. So we're looking at the books that are coming out the last week of May of 2024. So May 28th or 29th, depending on where you get your books. And before going any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of all of these collected editions. We've got 2 new trades and 2 epic collections. One, a brand new one, and a reprint of a classic epic collection. But before I even talk about any of these books, I'd always like to remind people to smash that like button, please. Not sure why I still put my freaking thumb up, even though we have a graphic somewhere down here. I don't know. Creature of habit. Anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and start. Let's talk about Grand Design in case you did not pick up the Treasury Edition. That's right. In case you haven't picked up the Treasury Edition, this book was available in that big format, and it is a beautiful book. This time around, though, it's a trade paperback retailing for $17.99, and it collects Hulk Grand Design Monster and Hulk Grand Design Madness. I love that they still kept this. The end sheets in your Treasury Edition, I love that everything is the same. And the book has 120 pages, by the way. So what is Grand Design? This is all written, drawn, colored, and lettered by Jim Rugg. And of course, Hulk created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Grand Design, it's that Ed Piskor after Todd McFarlane cover right there, Peach Momoko. So Grand Design takes everything you knew about the history of these characters, whether it's the X-Men or the Fantastic Four, and gives you a quick summary of what happened in a very unique way. So this is taking a step back in looking at what happened to Bruce Banner and how he became the Incredible Hulk, and going through the saga of the Incredible Hulk super quick. It feels like, I guess, something, you know, if you grew up in the 80s and in the 90s, but a Cliff Notes version, right? Like a really quick version of the stories, or I guess if you grew up these days, what Wikipedia or Reddit or those minute-long videos, the shorts are, explaining storylines in quick little minutes. But it's done in a very unique way. I mean, Jim Rugg really channeling these particular creators, whether it's Jack Kirby, or whether later on it's Big Sal Buscema, or Del Keown, or Todd McFarlane. I think it's really cool, but he goes through these particular stories and highlighting them, not going into full detail. I mean, it goes all the way through the Hulk past the Heroes Return era. And I don't want to spoil what happens, because that is the one thing about these particular Grand Design books. If you like reading things for yourself and you don't want any kind of spoilers, this will definitely spoil a lot of the big storylines. Whether it's Ground Zero or Maestro, or even the end of the Hulk run by Peter David. So it is split up into 2 separate books. You have the Monster and then the Madness. And I love the fact that they still have the letter pages here from like Mary Jo Duffy and creators before they were creators. I love that. And then the pictography here of the Incredible Hulk issues and all the variant covers collected. And yes, the colors look like this on purpose. Some of it really stands out. And again, channeling the different eras of the Hulk. I love that. Like that's Handsome Hulk from Del Keown's run. But before that, of course, he fought, yes, Wolverine. And channeling that Todd McFarlane era of Ground Zero, Joe Fixit. So it's all in here. So if you want to get to know the character, this is a really cool way of getting to know the character of the Incredible Hulk. Like if you've ever been curious as to who Joe Fixit is, who Maestro is, what is this big deal between the Hulk and Wolverine? Why are they fighting here? Like, it's all done in a really cool, fast-paced kind of way. But again, it will spoil a lot of the storylines for you. And it does it in a chronological order, not publishing order. So even if things were retcon for stories that took place in the 60s, but they weren't written until the 90s, they are put in the chronological order of the Hulk. I love that he puts different artists through here, like Herb Trimpe and Mary Severin, of course, Jim Steranko with that classic Hulk cover right there, and Many Faces of Hulk. And I'm sure everybody has their favorite artist too. So Eric Larson Hulk right back there. It's one of my favorite issues, the new Fantastic Four. So these are actual covers. Maybe I think it's Jim Rugg's favorite covers. And then, of course, the people that helped, well, not helped, but inspired this book right here. Because without these folks, this could never have been made. And a little bit about Jim Rugg and what he's published. But that is Hulk Grand Design. Back in print, The Avengers Epic Collection Volume 1, Earth's Mightiest Heroes. So back in print. Remember a few years ago, I asked Marvel if they ever had plans to keep some of these books in print, and they had the idea of maybe keeping volume 1s in print. Not really an evergreen, but try to keep them coming back to print from time to time without people voting on them. That's what this is. So this is volume 1, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, collecting Avengers 1 through 20. You have Stan Lee, Larry Lieber, Larry Ivy, and then Jack Kirby, Don Heck, and Dick Ayers. Your inkers, Dick Ayers, Chick Stone, Sam Rosen, Art Simek doing the lettering. And no credits for the colorists, because they really weren't giving credits back then. Sometimes the artists themselves color the books. And your table of contents. So collecting issues 1 through 20. The book has 456 pages. This printing retails for $44.99. So in here, it's the same thing as the original printing. You have Hulk 1 through 3, which introduces us to the concept of the team-up books, right? Like Stan Lee said in his opening of the Marvel Masterworks, which was also collected in the Omnibus Volume 1, that kids, or maybe adults too, really enjoyed when the characters would cross over into each other's books. So he said, why don't we give them a team book of all these characters? So this is where Loki helps form the team of the Avengers. So the Avengers have to stop the Hulk. So they have their first team up. There's the Space Phantom issue right there. Hulk still kind of being part of the Avengers, but then teaming up with Namor to take down the Avengers in issue number 3. And I'm sure a lot of people, when reading this for the first time, are asking themselves, wait a minute, where's Captain America? Where are Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch? Familiar with the MCU. Those characters don't come around until, well, Captain America doesn't come around until the next issue, issue number 4, which is right here, when he's thawed from the ice and has to fight off against Medusa. It's so cool. It's so freaking cool that they did this. Bringing back a Golden Age character and putting him into a Silver Age book that were testing the waters with that fake Captain America story. I think it's so cool that they did this. But I can't imagine being a kid this particular year when Captain America 50s icon came back to the pages of the Avengers. This is the fight against the Lava Man. It almost brings back the Hulk to the Avengers, but I mean, it's the Lava Man. It never really pulls him back 100%. And then the next couple of issues is Dr. Zemo, not Baron Zemo, though I think he does call himself that title later on. So this is Captain America's old foe coming back and assembling his own team of villains like the Black Knight, Radioactive Man, and the Melter, known as the Masters of Evil. That's a really cool name, honestly. I love that. And that's a two-parter. They weren't really fond of doing two-parters, but when they did, I mean, they did make them fun. And then I could see, wanting to pick up the next issue. It continues into the next issue. Avengers number 8, it is the first appearance of my favorite villain, Avengers villain that is, and that is Kang the Conqueror. This is a little bit before the ties to Ramatut and Immortus and things like that. Because, well, never mind. If you haven't read it, you're in for a treat how everything is tied together. The next issue, of course, brings us the first appearance of Wonder Man. And I don't know how many times I have talked about this book right here, this issue. I think because there was a Wonder Man saga, there was a Wonder Man omnibus, Mighty Marvel Masterworks maybe? Something like that. But anyway, first appearance of Wonder Man, he's bad, and then hey, he's good. Then we get Immortus. Remember what I said about Kang, Immortus, and Ramatut? Yeah, things start to get a little bit confusing now. If you're a time traveler, they start having pinups right here. And Don Heck starts doing a lot more of the issues through here. And this is issue number 11, which co-stars Spider-Man, but also makes it the return of Kang. And I promise I'm not going to go through each issue. I'm sure I've talked about this stuff in detail when I went over to Omnibus, didn't I? This is the fight against the Mole Man. The Mole Man confronts Iron Man, Captain America, and the Wasp, and Giant Man. And that's kind of crazy considering he got taken out by the Fantastic Four. But sure, I'll take my chances with Thor, too. You know, the guy's a god. And issues 13 through 14 kind of work together, too, as a two-part story. Because there are plot elements that carry over from issue 13 all the way to 14. But it is all about the crime syndicate and all being led by... what is it? Count Nefaria. I love that Giant Man's trying out a new outfit there. But, you know, when you're going to be with the Wasp, you got to keep up, especially with those new outfits. The next two issues, actually 15 and 16, also work as a part of a two-parter. And it's the return of the Masters of Evil. So it's Baron Zemo, Melter, Black Knight, this time Enchantress and Executioner. And I think it's just the radioactive man that is missing from these. And then we eventually get a new team of Avengers, too, with issues... Well, let's go back here for a second. Number 16, the start of a great new Avengers lineup. Now, this is where probably some people are going to be like, oh, that's more of the type of Avengers I was talking about. So this is Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver joining the team. This is the fight against the Minotaur. So this is the... I guess it's kind of like their first mission, like... as far as like new Avengers, not like Bendis' new Avengers, but as far as being the new Avengers, like these are the first couple of missions together with Captain America leading them and reform villains, right? Then we have the introduction of the Swordsman, and he's trying to join the Avengers, and then eventually, of course, trying to fight them. And then we have the Mandarin coming in here too for the final story. As far as the extras in the back, I'm sure I've done an overview of the omnibus, so if you want to go and check out a more thorough discussion about these particular stories, you're more than welcome to check out that video. House ads and original art, of course. It's the production photo stat, and this is the original design for the Swordsman. Yeah, I kind of glad they changed it. And then the original art by Wally Wood inking this, or Wallace Wood, rather. And Don Heck doing the art. Other epic collections. And finally back in print, Earth's Mightiest Heroes. And it's come to be that part of the video where I remind you to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet and ring that bell for notifications, but also to show off the spines of the books that are coming out this very week. Alright, let's continue with the overview. Punisher, the bullet that follows. Now, based on the cover and the back cover here, parental advisory by the way, this is the new Punisher. This is the Punisher that is not Frank Castle. If you want to read about what happened to Frank Castle, that happens in the pages of Jason Aaron's Punisher run. Not his Max run, but his new Punisher run. That came out like 2 years ago and then wrapped up last year. So this is the new Punisher. Frank Castle has taken a step back, but I mean, we've seen that before. This is the Punisher by David Pepose and Dave Watcher, Dan Brown, Corey Petit, and it is a new character. This makes his first appearance, and that is Joe Garrison. He's an ex-SHIELD member, so he's not quite a loner, because there are some differences and similarities between Joe Garrison and Frank Castle. And Frank Castle, I don't want to spoil what the similarities are, because, you know, you should read it for yourself and judge it for yourself. But there are definitely similarities and then differences. One of the biggest differences is that Joe doesn't really feel much like a loner, much like Frank Castle did. Even though Frank worked with people like Microchip and a couple of other supporting cast members, especially when he got like his own home during the Welcome Home Frank storyline by Garth Ennis. And if you haven't read that, that's freaking awesome. So, some people liked him as a loner, others liked him with, I kind of like the supporting cast. And other people really like that Punisher team with the guy that wore the skull on his face, the Lady Punisher. Anyway, but this is a new era. And we are introduced to the character of Joe Garrison and how he's an ex-SHIELD member. And he's going after different types of villains. Yeah, very similar to what the Punisher did. But these are new villains that have appeared. And one of the villains, it's like a group of people known as the Jigsaw. So it's not just Jigsaw, it's the Jigsaw, which are a group of like terrorists. He gets to fight classic villains like Mr. Hyde. Of course, mileage may vary whether you think he's a classic villain. And there is a lot of violence in here. I mean, I assume the parental advisory comes from the violence. So some characters may be familiar to you, like Taskmaster's daughter there. But there are some new villains that he gets to fight against. And he kind of holds his own. So this collects the 4-issue miniseries. I don't know if it was ongoing at first and they decided to wrap it up and make it 4 issues, or if there's any plans to bring it back. All I know is that this is 4 issues now. 112 pages and retailing for $15.99. This is what the artwork looks like. And in the back, I did want to show some of the variant stuff. Don't get too excited when I say that sometimes covers mean absolutely nothing. There's the case of one. So we have variant covers in the back here. Scotty Young. I don't know why they did this variant, but I think... Okay, I also don't know why they did that variant, but I think it's really cool. They did a 97 Punisher variant by Dan Jurgens, Brett Breeding, and Rochelle Rosenberg. And Rochelle Rosenberg is a great colorist. I love that she does make it look like a 90s picture. And here is the character design. So they were going through many different looks for this particular character of the Punisher. Because, of course, you got to make him stand out. He can't look like Frank at all. And then other collected editions featuring the Punisher. Last but certainly not least is Amazing Spider-Man Epic Collection, Big Apple Battleground. And by process of elimination, this is volume 10, by the way, 1977 to 1978. Hey, some good years. This is getting my seal of approval. If you've been paying attention, I do. Every week, I give one Marvel book my seal of approval, of my stamp, the Near Mint Edition stamp of approval. Like it means anything, really. But I don't know. I like doing that. I like limiting myself. I only had one book to pick out this week. This will be it. Sometimes it's hard, though. Like, you have, 9 books, and 5 of them are freaking fire, and the others are like, I can pass on those, but this one, solid. Len Wein, Marv Wolfman, we are at that era. Bill Mantlo, Archie Goodwin, Scott Edelman, Ross Andrew, who, ever since that omnibus that came out in Volume 5, I have just grown to really admire his artwork. Very clean and crisp, but also taking chances. Don Perlin, John Romita Jr., Sal Buscema, Mike Esposito, Jim Mooney, Tony DeZuniga, Joe Rosen, John Costanza, how dare I say Joe Costanza, John Costanza, and Bruce Patterson are some of the letters, and then the colorist Glennis Wein, and Don Warfield, and Janice Cohen. Spider-Man created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. So this is a brand new Epic collection. Also, the stuff in here has not been collected in omnibus format. The Epics, they got one up on us. The book has 520 pages, retails for $49.99, and collects Amazing Spider-Man 165 to 185, and Spider-Man Annuals 11 and 12, and Nova number 12, and then part of the Marvel calendar 1978. Now, we kick it off with the Reptiles joining forces here. Stegron and Dr. Kurt Connors bringing dinosaurs back to life to fight Spider-Man. And this is a goofy but fun era. Again, Ross Andrew on artwork. Different inkers, of course, when you have different embellishers, really affect his artwork. Sometimes it's a little bit darker, sometimes it's a little bit sketchier. And Len Wein actually came off of Uncanny X-Men to write these stories. So he left X-Men to Chris Claremont and came to write these stories here. So those were the Christmas issues. And then we have the return of the Spider Slayer plus a new superstar. I guess it depends on your definition of superstar, but it is the Will-O-Wisp that enters in this book. Now, he's not the only character making a first appearance here. You know, one of the things I realized when I was flipping through here, by the way, if you're ever wondering, how in the world do I read so fast to talk about all these books and omnis? I've been reading books for 40 years. So a lot of this stuff, I'm like, oh, I've read that a few times, or I've read that once. I just need to flip through here. Oh yeah, read some issues. And then if it's something I really enjoy, I'm like, oh man, I'm reading this cover to cover. That's how I'm able to keep up, because you know there's new books here. Like I haven't read The Punisher until I just opened it up with this batch, but I had read the Avengers and I had read Hulk Grand Design, and I've read a lot of the stories here. Now, Spider-Man, I have done many read-throughs over the years. And I really patted myself on the back for being like one of these guys that proudly said, I remember when Spider-Man 500 hit, I was like, I've read every 500 issues of Spider-Man's, all the spin-offs, and the annuals. Like, I was so proud of myself. The ones I couldn't find, Marvel in the 90s, I believe. No, it was the early aughts, released a CD-ROM of the digital files. Because a lot of the stuff that when I was collecting the Marvel Masterworks before I sold them hadn't been masterworked. So I bought that and I read some of the stuff digitally that way off a CD-ROM. I think now they have apps. This is the Dr. Faustus issue, and I'm talking about something here that I promise it will make sense. I thought I had read all this. So as I'm rereading some of it, you know, I love this crossover with Nova too, when Dr. Ryder, his uncle, is killed by Photon, this villain, and he's blaming Spider-Man. But who is Photon? Who is under that mask? And it crosses over into Amazing Spider-Man. Len Wein again, writing this too. But I had not read Uncanny X-Men, I've read all of them. But I have not read Amazing Spider-Man Annual 11. The one with all the Spider-Folk. I was reading it, and I'm like, I don't think I've read this. So as I get to this right here, you know, I had read this, the Nova stuff. That actually was covered in the Nova Omnibus. And as I get here, I'm like, wait, I don't think I've read this. Who's this Man-Spider guy? So I went back, and yeah, sure enough, I had never read this issue with the Spider Squad, all the Spider people here. I can't believe I did that. Like, I thought I had read everything, and this one must have somehow snuck by me, because I didn't have it in a collection, and I must have thought I read it in the CD-ROM, and maybe my CD-ROM didn't have the file. Maybe I just skipped the file. But, man, that was really cool to read this for the first time. Is it a good story? No, it's actually kind of goofy, but I enjoyed reading this. I like this era of Spider-Man. This is the introduction of Rocket Racer, with his receding hairline. Kind of like Cable. Every time Cable kept coming back up, his hairline kept getting less and less receding. Anyway, but yeah, I hadn't read that, and that made me so happy. I don't know how anybody else is. Like, if you get collections like this, and you had these as kids, and you accidentally missed one issue, like, reading that issue makes you feel like a completionist. You're like, it's that feeling of, I did it all. Yes. I can't believe I missed that, though. The Molten Man makes a comeback, so does the Punisher, and we have a character called the Hitman. He is hired to go after J. Jonah Jameson. Why? Well, he's made a lot of enemies, let's just say that. But who is it that's going to save J. Jonah? None other than Peter Parker, the guy that J. Jonah hates. And this leads into a couple storylines. Aunt May gets some police brutality against her because she's rallying up, right? She's protesting for equal rights for the elderly. And one of the cops pushes her down. That leads into a storyline, but Aunt May gets hurt. Like, she really gets hurt. She gets knocked down here by the police. And she's an old lady, and she's like, my heart. There's too much strain. That seems to have happened a lot. So that's one of the storylines that's going through here. And the Return of the Green Goblin. I think this is the highlight of this particular epic collection. I think this story is really, really good. Eventually, you know, Spider-Man has had a love interest. He's trying to graduate from college. He's still dating Mary Jane. And there is a big switch up here. Like, he wants to take it to the next level. See, Ross Andrew with Mike Esposito. I love this stuff. and I don't want to show what happens, but yes, there is a big decision that is made. This is the retelling of the Spider, which is actually the cover here from issue 181, right there. And this is the retelling of the origin of Spider-Man. He's going to visit Uncle Ben. And, you know, he's got a lot on his shoulders. A lot has happened since Amazing Fantasy 15. And what he has here on his back, what he's bringing to the graveyard, I think is really sweet. Like, I can see some people being like, that ending was stupid. Why did he just leave that there? And anyway, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but I like the message at the end. But it is a retelling. He's sitting here talking to Uncle Ben on his tombstone, talking about his many fights and his many losses. Let's skip with the return of Rocket Racer here and see what I mean by a different embellisher, inking Ross Andrews stuff. Yeah, he's getting up there for me as far as like some of the best Spider-Man artists. Marv Wolfman comes in and starts writing this, and I think he writes Spider-Man for about 40 or 50 issues, if I'm not mistaken. Betty Brant makes an appearance, and the last villain he fights through here is this White Dragon character. And then you do have the annual number 12 back here. Amazing Spider-Man is presented and edited reprint of Amazing Spider-Man 119 and 120 with a new cover by John Byrne and a new title page by John Romita and Frank Giacoia. Unlike annual 11, it's just a reprint. And then all of the extras in the back, including this... Wait a minute. I thought this was a trading card for Marvel Man. So apparently it was the cover. It's a boasted cover featuring an interview with Spider-Man co-creator and Marvel icon Stan Lee. That is awesome. By Arnold Sawyer. I always like that picture. It's creepy, but it makes sense. So this is the Foom interview right there. I think later on they made it into a trading card called the Marvel Man. And there's interviews there with John Romita, the 1978 calendar there. Was there just a Spider-Man 1978 calendar? Mighty Marvel Comics calendar 1978. Yeah, well, maybe there was. He was just there for the whole months. Bullpen and the calendar back cover. And this is the final issue of Marvel's Prozine from Foom 22. Another interview there. And that looks like Star Wars, like anime or manga Star Wars. Let's see, another Mighty Marvel first two, count them, two complimentary comic versions of Star Wars being released in the Land of the Rising Sun here for benefit of Foom. But who was the artist? And then Marvel Tales 100 right there. And then the original art for Amazing Spider-Man 185. 520 pages, $49.99. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count of each of these books. Let me know in the comments down below if you are picking any of these up, if you missed out on Avengers the first time it came out, or if you're just collecting it in epic format and you didn't have that one. And what else you would love to see get an epic collection or a modern epic collection. I think it's time we get things like New Mutants or things like Alpha Flight. It would be really cool. And as far as modern stuff, I would love to see some Fantastic Four modern stuff. But anyway, leave those comments down below. Smash that like button. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.